Hi, I'm Kevin Galetz, a program facilitator with the Regina District Industry Education Council working in the SunWest School Division. I grew up in the late 1970s, and it was everybody's dream, I think, to be a bit of a rock star back then. We had the long flowing hair. Believe it or not, I had hair back then. But, and as a career counselor for 30 plus years in high school, I had lots of students that wanted to be in a band, and just about every student was into music of some sort. I'm going to travel out tonight to see some former students of mine who've actually kind of made that dream a reality. They are part of an alt rock group called 7 Mile Sun, and they are from the Harris Tessier area. And I'm going to go out and visit them at the place where they practice, in the basement of the home of the parents of a couple of them. And we'll see what it's like to be in a rock band. How do you get started? How do you learn to play the instruments? How do you get together? Where do you play? They also produce some of their own music now, and so we're going to ask them what that's like to produce and record their own music, and how do you get it on the radio. So it's going to be an interesting journey. I got to drive out there, so they've given me permission to play their music video, Love Sales, that they produced a while ago. And while I'm driving out there, you can watch that video. It's going to be an interesting drive out there. This is typical rural Saskatchewan directions here. I've got them on the phone here, my phone here from Kimberly, a member of the band. And it says, go to Harris, follow the curve out of town. There should be, you go through an intersection, a T intersection, go by a cemetery. There should be a broken down windmill and a barn that's leaning over. And then you turn right by the deer carcass if it's still in the ditch. Don't go too far, you'll drive into Goose Lake. So I don't know, wish me luck, because I just hope I get there and get this interview. So enjoy it.
Today, you don't recognize yourself when you look
Right, we're here tonight in the practice hall of the band 7 Mile Sun, and I'll have everybody introduce themselves.
Yeah, awesome. My name's Kimberly. I play the drums and do some singing as well in the band. And a little bit of my background, I guess. I am a nurse as well as my kind of daytime job, and then play music on some weekends and whenever we have the gigs and have practice.
And?
I'm Kevin Stevens. I'm the guitar player and lead vocalist, as well as the primary songwriter for the band. And I have a day job as a farmer, and I have a wife and 2 young kids. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the band tonight.
Yeah, good, awesome. And?
I'm Joanne Janae. I live here in Harris. I'm the bass player of the band. I have a grocery store in Harris, and I kind of played more of a supporting role here in the band.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, disagree.
And just so people know, Kimberly and Kevin are brother-sister too, so there's a family connection there for sure.
Yeah, and we're in our parents' basement right now.
So, how did this group get started, and when? How long have you been doing this, and what's the story behind the band?
I'll let you tell your origins, and then I can tell how I joined.
Sure, as far as the band itself started, as it is, Kimberly and I started a band in high school when Mr. Galetz was teaching us.
I didn't teach him anything about the band.
No, far from it. Matter of fact.
That's right.
And I wanted to get a band going pretty badly, and I had a friend of mine who played guitar as well. So we kind of started things up. We found a bass player and a drummer, and then our drummer was only the drummer because his sister had a drum kit, and he didn't know how to play it and never wanted to play it. So we had the drum kit here, I think, for some reason.
In the garage.
And Kimberly was here, and Kimberly's always had a good rhythm because she was a dancer and such, and we've always been around music. So I asked Kimberly to hop on the drums and try it out, and she figured it out pretty quickly and kind of taught herself. So then we had that band as it was in high school, called The Franchise. We played a few shows at the school. We played some shows in town at people's houses and garages and stuff, through some dances, and it was really fun.
2008-ish?
Yeah, 2008 or so we started that.
Mm-hmm.
Then following high school, we didn't do much for a few years as far as music goes. And then in 2013, Kimberly and I entered a competition in Saskatoon called the Duo. And we did relatively well in that. We made the top 10. We got to perform at TCU Place.
Mm-hmm. We surprised ourselves a lot with that.
Yeah, it was so cool. And got a lot of, met a lot of people through that helped get us started, made some good connections, and kind of got our name out there a bit. So after that, we started getting a few offers for shows. We started playing some bars and such.
Some ball tournaments.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah, slow pitch tournaments, that kind of stuff. And that was great. We did a 2-piece act for 3-4 years.
For sure, yeah.
Do you remember what year you joined? 17?
17. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess it was 3 or 4 years Kimberly and I did that on our own. And then we had Joanne. Joanne's always been a friend of ours, and Kimberly had played with Joanne in a different band at some point.
In high school, missing some volleyball tournaments.
Yeah, that's where you were.
So I guess long story short, we just decided to bring everyone together, round out the sound with a third person, and then we never looked back, and that's how the band is today.
So, and just to point out to everybody, they're kind of from the same community, so in the small rural community here at the Harris Tessier area, so we all knew one another all along.
Yeah, I knew Kimberly pretty well.
There was a connection there.
Yeah.
We go back.
We've always known Joanne too.
Yeah. So you mentioned Kimberly's kind of picked up the drums kind of just by kind of trial and error and learned how to play. So could you two just tell your musical background before you became band members here?
Sure, you go ahead, Joe. I've been talking for a while.
Okay, I started music lessons when I was young, learned to play piano. I teach some music lessons, teach piano. As far as guitar goes, I picked it up probably more just on my own and played in a band for years.
Yeah. And Kevin, yourself?
I was kind of interested in music always. Our parents have always been big into music, so we grew up listening to a lot of classic rock around the house, and then I was encouraged to try playing guitar when I was 7. Mom and Dad got me a guitar for Christmas, And at 7, I was a little bit too young, so it didn't take. But then when I was 11, another guitar showed up Christmas morning.
Here, try again.
And, got some lessons booked in Harris with a fantastic musician, and I took lessons for a few years, and then after that, I just kept on going. I was able to pick up more as I went.
So there's kind of different ways to do it. You're learning on your own, some formal lessons. There's different ways to kind of get this rolling.
Well, yeah, and there's so many, like online, you can take lessons basically for free. I think if you want on YouTube, there's tons of resources out there.
Yeah.
That if you can't afford to take lessons, you could self-teach online.
For sure. And even for myself, I mean, teaching myself to keep a basic beat, but then I would listen to a song that I really liked and I wanted to learn, and I'd slow it right down or listen to it in chunks and really slow it down to teach myself, or search a video online on YouTube and say how to play Teenagers by My Chemical Romance, and then they will show you in slow time how to play it, and you just listen to it, watch it, try it again, and teach yourself that way too.
I still buy lessons online. I'll pay for lessons. There's apps that you can buy.
Oh, okay, good.
There's a lot available.
Always learning.
Lots of ways to do that. So you kind of covered how you can maybe learn and stuff like that, formally, informally, on your own, those kinds of things. What about any advice for young people who maybe are thinking, I'd like to be in a band, like any advice for starting something up? Like, any recommendations?
That would be a little tricky if you didn't have any friends, first of all, that play or are interested in the same stuff as you.
Or family.
Yeah, or family. But if you really wanted to do it, you can always do it. You could post on Facebook, you could post on Kijiji looking for musicians. I'm sure you just start going to shows and talking to people.
Okay.
Would be something to do too. Like no matter where you were at a show, there's going to be other musicians there.
And they're always happy to talk to you and share what they're doing and how they're learning things.
Or too, even if you're learning guitar or bass, you can easily get a drum track going, in the background or on a keyboard or something, or playing it on your phone and then playing over top of it and kind of learning in that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of practice on your own, and then maybe someday find somebody else
to jam with, I guess is what we say. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
There's nothing more fun than finding other people to play with.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Playing on your own is great too, but when you can find people that you have things in common with and can play together, it's a great feeling.
Okay, good. Okay, so now that you formed the band and you're performing on a regular basis, how does the practice work? How does that work for you? Obviously the three of you just don't get together on a Friday night and haven't seen one another for 6 months and play, or do you?
Sometimes we do.
But you've been doing it for a while, though.
Yeah.
But how does the practice work?
Well, we're pretty fortunate that we, again, kind of come from a similar community. I mean, I now live about an hour away, but otherwise, we kind of use this space as our jam space or our area to get together in, so we're lucky that we have it. But, when we have a show coming up, which we're both playing about once a month kind of these days, or sometimes less than if it's during a busy season for farming. But before a show, we'll message each other and plan, hey, who's got free time this week and what time does that look like, and try to get together 2-3 times for sure before a show, depending how long it's maybe been since we got together, and book a time. And generally 6:30, 7 o'clock kind of works for us on weeknights, and I'll drive out and we'll play for usually 2-3 hours kind of thing, and until we start getting pretty silly and overtired, and then we call her a day.
Before we get together, though, we tend to try to figure out what we're going to do and work on it on our own beforehand.
So
if you come unprepared, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
No, I know this.
And then everyone's just looking at you because you've messed it up 10 times, right? You're like, oh, I should have practiced. I meant to.
Joanne, we're counting on you.
If we're preparing for a show where we have to play a full night of music, 3 full sets, it's hard to cover all that in one evening.
Yeah.
So let's focus on set 1 on Tuesday night of practice, and then everybody knows what you're coming into, and we can kind of stay a little more focused. And then by the end, we're not focused at all. We're just
it's nonsense.
Farting around. Yeah.
It comes a point in time. That's enough.
Yeah, and then we know. Yeah.
But we keep it light.
So when you said sets, it kind of makes me think of another question. How many songs are in the bank for what you guys can do?
Man.
Well, on that list that we have that continually goes and grows of covers and originals, I think there's 120.
Yeah.
You could probably take 10 that we basically couldn't play anymore.
Yeah, that we've lost track of.
But a lot of them, we'll pull one out of the bank that we haven't played for a couple of years and play it for a show because we think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Just kind of relearn it and replay it. But yeah, probably well over 100.
Yeah, and that's obviously grown over time. You know,
Oh,
yeah.
You started off with
For sure.
a handful.
Start off
a
playing
few.
5 songs or something. Like I remember finding an old set list from one of our very first shows we played at Tessier Hall in high school or something, and we played like 8 songs or something the whole night, and like that was
That's all
perfect. It was
we
a whole, so that was all we had, which is great.
Yeah. We're done.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
Unless you want to hear this again.
Yeah, we can play these ones over again, but
Repeat.
yeah, we practiced hard at them. We worked really hard at those songs.
Yeah.
That's how you start.
Yeah. That's good. You just build up from there.
Yeah.
Build up a library.
Yeah.
So next question is performing. So I get before I do that, the question on the practice. So this stuff that I see around is the equipment. You kind of leave it here then, and you got that. Mom and dad are okay with just this is your place and this is your space.
Yeah.
Luckily, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, luckily it's right.
Haven't found it out in the lawn yet.
Yeah,
No.
haven't checked this out.
I've been evicted.
For myself, I luckily I had these drums here for like the last 10 years, I think I figured, and then recently purchased a new drum kit this last year. So that one I've been keeping, which is kind of my performance kit, or the one that I like to play on. So I keep that one usually at my house, or even just packed up in the bags, since it does take a bit of time and effort to haul your drums in and up and downstairs and set them up. So I try to keep this one now. This is kind of my practice kit, and then keep my other one bagged
so
up.
you've got it separate there. So next is the performances. Like where have you? What are some highlight performances, or what type of venues do you perform at? And can you just describe it in a general sense, and then maybe some of the highlight spots?
In a general sense, we play a lot of bars and clubs now. Since we started to focus more on original music, that scene is a little bit more, inviting, and that's where you want to be. That's people come to a club to see original music.
They're more open to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a more attentive crowd when you play original music in a small club versus if you're playing a dance and you throw some originals in, which we do, and we've had decent reception to that. But in the clubs is where we showcase our original stuff. So we played more clubs in the last couple of years since we started writing and recording, but we still do some dances. We're doing a cabaret next weekend.
Some festivals.
Festivals has
now
been so much fun.
highlight.
Started doing that the last few years,
Yeah.
and that's been great. Meeting all these other musicians. Didn't grow up with other musicians. I didn't have friends that I could talk music with really, and to meet people and make new friends at these kind of events has been amazing.
That's good. Yeah, good networking.
Oh, it's so much
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
So the venues, so what's the furthest you've been?
Banff. Now we just played Banff last week in Alberta. Got to play two shows at one of the clubs in Banff, and that was an absolute highlight of my entire life. It was
Cool.
pretty cool, yeah. So to go there and play that was amazing.
So how do you line up those shows? Like the club is out there looking, or do you go looking?
I went looking. It kind of depends on what show you're looking for in order to secure one down. But sometimes you definitely need some extra help, and it takes a lot of asking and a lot of connections too. So again, this is where networking comes in and getting to know other musicians. We became friends with another local musician through some shows that we had played together, or stages that we had shared, and I ended up being able to book a meeting with him through Sask Music, a really, really great resource to use for Saskatchewan musicians. And we pay like $50 a year to be a membership of that, and you're able to have meetings with a ton of different musicians in this library who can help you with anything from stage performance to sound writing to touring, networking, all of that stuff. You can just meet with a bunch of different people for all of different genres. Met with him and asked about touring and how that would look, and sat with him for a couple hours on Zoom, and he gave me a ton of tips and what to do and how to format that, and let me use his name actually to reach out to a few of these clubs that he recommended in BC and Alberta, and I did just that, and I got crickets back from a lot of them. But this one actually, once I kind of name dropped and said who had sent me and gave some history there, then we were able to secure a show, and it went really, really well.
So do you have to send out like a video or a sound bite or something like that, just to
Right.
of what you've done, or?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the venue. Like this one, I was just emailing back and forth with them, and they usually want to see
Electronic press kit.
Yeah, like EPK they call it, like electronic press kit. So that's something that's been new to me that I've just learned the last couple of years, and kind of like an electronic or a musical resume. So I've created one of those on our website. So you kind of have, you know, photos of yourself, your bio, kind of what shows you've played, how many followers you have maybe, or how many, you know, if you write your own music, what music you play. And so submitted that to them as long with a couple tracks that we've wrote ourselves, and kind of they like to see videos of live music of you playing of actual live events and see the crowd that are there engaged. They like to see those kind of things too.
So a lot of your performing in clubs is around in the Saskatoon area or in Saskatoon?
Yeah, primarily.
Yeah.
We haven't really ventured out of Saskatoon as far as clubs go yet.
Yeah.
You know, besides some small town bars, but
Yeah.
we haven't yet. We've been talking about playing a show in Regina. They've got a couple good clubs down there, and we've met some other musicians from Regina, so we could you know, potentially book a show with another band from Regina, which would help draw people to the club. They would get to see a band they know as well as a new band.
Yeah.
And we've been doing the same thing with some, like we just are planning a show in Harris again with a band from Regina that wants to come up here and play, and they know that if our name's on the bill, we'll draw a crowd.
Yeah.
So that's a great reason to be
It gets
associated with the
yeah,
other acts.
exposure to different crowds,
Yeah.
different places.
So the cover band versus creating your own music. The cover band just is playing other people's music, and you guys do some of that. But now you've kind of in the last few years have ventured into writing your own music and performing your own music. So how does that work, and who's involved in that?
Well, to get started, we started playing covers because it's all we knew, and we didn't have. I mean, I've actually been writing songs as long as I can remember, literally, but didn't have the confidence to play them for anybody. I don't know. I hardly ever played a song that I wrote to anybody until I was a little older. But playing covers is fun, and it's not easy to learn the songs, but there's resources out there to learn the songs. People know them. You know, you're gonna have an engaged crowd if you're playing music that people know. So we did that for a long time and had a ton of fun doing it. And you're able to make great money playing cover music. If you can book a show to play, say, a wedding or a dance or something. There's acts. You know, the low end for something like that would be $1,000, $1,500.
Very
and
low.
that's incredibly low.
Yeah.
The high end would be $5,000 kind of thing to
For
play
sure.
to play a wedding if you have all your own equipment. So there's a lot of money to be made playing covers, which is a lot of the reason why we still do it. It's able to finance the recording and the studio time as well. Because you know, we go into a club and perform. You don't get paid near that. We paid for $200 in a club. We've played for $1,500 in a club. So playing covers is where the money's at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So creating your own music. So can you walk me through the process of creating it, and then how do you get it out there? Those two things.
Most of our songs have come from me. I've been the primary songwriter of the band. Although Kimberly, we have a song that we're performing now all the time that Kimberly's written. That's really great, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of what Kimberly has to say.
I'm just starting to hatch that shell like Kevin's talking about. I tested the first song and now.
Well, good. I mean, I can imagine that the confidence thing is like, I mean, am I going to be able to produce a song or come up with a song that people are going to want to hear? You know, like, I mean, I could see I'm thinking in my own head, now, would I ever be able to do that? That you know, like because you kind of compare yourself to cover music. Sometimes you're going to go, how did that become popular? Like, how can I do that?
That was an interesting point you made about can I produce something that people want to hear? And I was very focused on that when I first started writing songs and bringing songs to the band and playing songs for people. I was quite focused on is this something people are going to want to hear? And I've since, through talking to other musicians and listening to music that I've always loved, I doubt that Pink Floyd was worried about if people wanted to hear their music.
That's just what they wanted to produce.
Exactly. So if you're able to write something that you really believe in and be vulnerable with your writing, that's been another one for me, and it's hard because you're putting your feelings out there for everybody to hear. But if you can do that, and when I started doing that, my songs went from this level to the next. I think. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but
just don't care what other people are thinking so much as this is what
definitely
expressing yourself.
Yeah, play what you write and play what you want to write and play.
Well, there's so much passion that you can feel, even for yourself. If you listen to a musician that you really like yourself, there's a level of connection there when you can tell that it's coming from somewhere deep inside of them versus just playing about some taboo topic that everybody plays about or talks about or whatever else. You can often kind of connect in a deeper way too.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
So again, you can help me with this, because I have no idea how this works. Like, how does lyrics is one thing, and maybe tune, but how do you translate that to, here's what the drummer has to do with it, and here's what the bass has to do with it, and here's what the guitar has to do with it. How do you incorporate that?
Generally, when I write a song, I've had the riff come first, or I've had the lyrics come first. It's 50-50. I'll have a riff I've been sitting on for a few years, and then I find I come up with some lyrics that match it. I just have a bank of lyrics in my phone that I just shoot them down.
Lines, you mean? Like a line of lyrics, or like
yeah,
words?
It could be just a line, or it could be a verse, could be a chorus. I've got on my voice notes, I've got melodies that I've just hummed into my phone that I've heard through the day. So I usually end up kind of arranging the song myself, and then I come here and I say, hey, you guys want to hear something new? I play it for the guys, the girls, the women, and we go from there.
Sometimes Kevin has an idea, like, I kind of want to hear you do this, and sometimes he's like, figure something out for that.
Yeah, and we'll just play along.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch too on the songwriting piece, because sometimes too, when you really want to be creative and you really want to think of something, nothing will come to you, and it'll come at the most random time. Like this song that I wrote, I was trying to sleep one night, and I just started singing this song in my head, and so I kept thinking, I'm like, well, this must be a song that I heard on the radio or something. And I kept, just like the next day it came back, and just kind of the melody of it and the tune, it was like, what the heck, I kind of had like a word and then just how does that go? So then I'm like, well, I better record this, I'm going to forget, quick make a voice note of it, and I think you've done similar things.
Oh yeah, because you will forget.
You forget it, and then you kind of come back and you're like, oh, okay, this kind of tune, and then what words would go with that, and then bring it to the band, and then sometimes too we'll say like, oh, what about using this line here or this line here, and kind of make it a creative process between all of us. And like you say, then Joanne, Kevin will just kind of play it over and over. Joanne will start playing some notes that match and different riffs, and then I'll do some things, and Kevin might say like, I'm not really vibing with that, or I'm not really digging that, and then we'll change things up, or vice versa, and create something that feels good.
And it goes all ways. We all have input in the song once it's
presented
presented to the band. Honestly, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And then we work together to structure it.
Kind of a collaboration.
Yeah.
I could see where the phone, the notes, and the voice messages and all that stuff would be really important, because
It's invaluable.
You got something in your head. I don't want to forget this, because
the tune, you can't really record a tune otherwise
yeah,
without like
that's right. Yeah. So I could see there, like you said before, you're sitting on something for a while that like just didn't have had some lyric, but I didn't know where to put it.
Mm-hmm.
How you find a place for it eventually. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The next thing I want to talk to was the recording aspect. So you've got your own music now. So how do you record that? In what formats is it recorded? That kind of thing. And how do people find out about it?
Yeah.
You kind of were the one who did the searching for where we were going to go record.
Yeah, I guess when we first thought like, hey, we actually should record some of our own music. Like, what does that look like? We didn't know either. How do you know until you figure it out? So I literally Googled like recording studios Saskatoon, and came up with a lot of options. Again, Sask Music too has banks of these companies listed in their directories, that you can kind of go and search people. So what I did is just looked through a bunch of different people's profiles, looked at who they maybe worked with or other musicians they'd worked with, what their cost maybe was, and if it felt like a good fit for us. And ended up, the first one that we picked had an incredible experience with, and he's been our producer for all of our music that we've written so far, and our sound recording engineer. So we ended up, I messaged him and asked if we could meet up, and said, we're wanting to record some music for the first time. He said, yeah, for sure. So we met up with him and kind of went over a few things and asked if it would be a good fit, and it seemed good for all of us. So I went to his recording studio in Saskatoon, and that process is quite involved. I'll let you speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah. We didn't know what to expect.
No.
We'd never done it before. So the way that we record is every track is laid down individually. So generally we go in and we start with a scratch track, what we call. So I'll put on a set of headphones, and they have what's called a click track going, just to keep you on time.
Yeah.
So the click track's playing in your ear, and that was a real learning curve, was being able to stay on that click track. It was painful for a while.
Yeah, because it's normal for music just to kind of ebb and flow. As you get excited in the song, it might speed up a little bit, but like this is like literally you have to keep exactly on that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're not used to something, I could see that would be different.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
think that you are always playing your rhythm perfectly, and you're not.
Especially as a drummer. Yeah, I was like, oh wow, I have really been fluctuating.
You don't
my
get
beat.
excited either.
No.
So go ahead.
So generally we start with a scratch guitar track, so I'll have the headphones on, I'll play through the entire song, just the guitar, and then we started, once we got a little better and learning what works for us, we started adding a scratch vocal, just so everybody knows where we are at in the song when they're recording their individual pieces. So after the scratch guitar and scratch vocal are down, we do the drums.
Yeah. So then I'll come in and then I put the headphones on. So I've got the click track and I've got the scratch guitar riff going, so I can hear Kevin's bass guitar riff. And then now that we've added the vocal, so I can hear him singing. So I'm playing along to him, and we'll do a take or 20. Sometimes like it's taken me 20 times in a row to get the beat down. There is of course a sense of editing that the recording engineer can do. However, it's tough for them, and you want it to sound as natural for yourself as well too.
You have to be able to play it afterwards.
That's right. You gotta. Yeah, it can't be just made by computer. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I've done it kind of great off of my first, second, third try. Other times, literally 20 tries, and it takes some serious patience and some positive self-talk, because you end up walking around the room
few deep breaths
and some tears that want to come up because you're really frustrated, and but we always end up getting it. It just takes some time, but yeah. So do the drums and then bass.
Yep, do the drums and then the bass.
So then Joanne's listening to all that with the drums now too, and playing over top and playing the bass.
Yep. Once the bass is down, we will scrap the scratch guitar and the scratch vocal riff, and then I'll come in and do a rhythm guitar over top. Again, the same. I've had times where I've done it on the second try. I've had times where I've done it on the 20th try, and it can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think you've got it, and you listen to it later in the evening and think, yeah, I need to redo that. You know, you can go back and revisit it as well.
So yeah, and once we have the rhythm guitar down, usually we maybe would do lead guitar, or we would do vocals after that. We've kind of done it either way. So I'll do a lead vocal, and then after that we will do some backing vocals, harmonies.
Yeah.
Maybe add in some small nuances. You know,
There's a lot more to it than I thought. As far as now, when I listen to music, I hear it more. Whether there's a shaker or some claps or some woo woos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me as the outsider just kind of just listens to the music.
It just
Yeah.
sounds like
That's
and
right.
that should just sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually got as crazy as in our one song, we ended up looking around the room and just trying to find some stuff that we could record with for fun, and we found a pair of wooden clogs within the recording studio. So we actually have a video of Kevin sprawled back in a chair with these clogs up in the air, and he's clicking them into the mic. So that is recorded in one of our songs, clogs clicking.
Yeah.
We got some other weird stuff just for fun to add in that we maybe would only notice, but
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and we try not to do things in the studio that we can't pretty closely replicate on stage. You're not going to have, there'll be a shaker in the background, but to the general audience, you would hardly even notice it's there, but it adds a lot when you hear it. So we won't have that when we perform live, but we try to keep it so that we can replicate it pretty closely on stage.
Yeah, that's probably pretty important. Live performance versus recorded performance.
Yeah.
It is to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some people it maybe wouldn't be, but to me it is. To us it is.
So then, after you've got that, the production company puts that all together, and where does it end up then after that? Does it go to the radio station, or what
Yes.
format?
Maybe you should mention how long it takes to do a song while we're on this.
Yeah, true. Good point.
Generally 5-6 hours to do a song.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah, sometimes too, because it ended up taking us even the full night or even a night and a half kind of thing where we'll go in to record. And the studios, it depends on the studio. You might be able to go in there and do an entire day or entire 3 days in a row. We prefer to kind of go on and do 4 or 5 hour evenings throughout the week. But yeah, it can take upwards of 5, 6, 7 hours, depends. And then all the time in the background of them kind of adjusting sounds and
Mixing
it. Yeah.
So we'll leave the studio in the evening, and then generally Our producer will send us what we have for the night. He can just shoot it off to us as in a Dropbox file. We can all listen to it at home, hear what we like, what we don't like, and then we might go back and change some things. So he will do all of the mixing, get all of the levels set properly. Once everyone's happy with the mix, usually it'll be 2 or 3 mixes before everyone's happy, and then he will master the song, which is the mix is all set, and then he's setting all the different frequencies throughout the master mix. Yeah.
And then we'll make sure that it's not going to be a song that's going to play on the radio beside somebody else's song. It comes on really, really loud, and then ours comes quietly beside it. So you have to make sure it's going to be balanced with the other songs.
Equalized volume,
Yes.
and stuff like that. So that becomes a saved file then that goes to radio stations. That's how radios would play stuff now, or if they have that.
So now it's like they'll send usually an MP3 file is what they'll have it as, and they'll once it's complete and mastered, they'll send it to us usually just via email. So then I've got this MP3 track, and that is an option. And what we have done is sending that track itself out to radio stations, and which often takes a lot of connecting, a lot of nudging. Exactly. A lot of, hey, play my track. I mean, I've sent out our music to a ton of radio stations and never heard anything back, multiple times calling, trying to connect, all these things, and that's normal. It's easy to become disheartened, but you can't, because really there's lots of good music out there. But that's a way of getting that file out. And then if you want to actually get your file onto somewhere like YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all of these actual streaming platforms, which is something that we had to learn too, because we had no idea. So that was a lot of Googling for myself as well. But I had to take this file and send it into like a third party platform. So there's many different out there. We use CD Baby is the name of the one that we use, but there's a lot of different ones that you can submit your song to, and they'll be responsible for doing all your copyright stuff behind it. So you kind of submit the file, you add in your artwork, which is another avenue as well too. You know, what do you want your actual CD cover, or just what you see on the radio come up, that little picture, or on Spotify. So I mean, we've done as much as making them ourselves on a design platform, or hiring a local artist to make them for us. So you submit your artwork, you submit, who wrote the song, who's taking all of the, I don't know.
Oh, what do you, like royalties?
Yeah, royalties for the song, like percentages. Kevin, if it's a song that Kevin primarily, he wrote all the lyrics, he wrote the guitar riff too, and Joanne and I added our guitar and our drums. We'll usually balance it more that, okay, Kevin kind of takes 60% of this song, or 50%, and then we're taking 25 and 25%. To say if your song, made it big, and what are you going to do? It's important conversations to have, if that ever happened. Who's taking the money of what? I'm
impressed, because there's a lot to it. I knew probably recording there'd be a little bit to it, but then getting it out there, that's another.
Yeah.
There's a lot
and
to do.
you submit to these guys and with all this information, and once you submit it to them, it usually takes a few weeks. You want to have it released or submitted to them ahead of time before your release date that you've chosen, and as you submitted it, then you want to create hype and tell people you're releasing a song, and you can save it, or you can create pre-save links that you hear people talk about. There's ways to do it through these platforms like CD Baby, and then when it's time to release your song, it's just magically, it's the night before, I'm thinking, it better be on there, because I haven't heard from them. And you wake up the next morning and you go search your song on Spotify, and it's there. And it's just the coolest feeling ever.
Cool.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
It sounds kind of complicated, but it's quite.
They made it
I
pretty
wouldn't say
smooth.
it is. It's not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's not terribly expensive as far as once you have the recording done. It's not that expensive to get it onto the streaming platforms.
Yeah, like
and
even
it shouldn't be, because you don't make very much money at all on streaming.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of return there, so it's relatively cheap to get it on there, and people around the world can hear your music.
And by cheap, like to submit a single to this CD Baby, that gets you onto whatever platform you want, basically, and you can pick which ones you want or don't want, like Deezer. There's some kind of random music platforms out there. But to submit to all of them, whatever you want, any country in the world, they'll go on sale. They'll have sales where you can submit a single for like $12 or $15,
Really? Yes.
or like normal price like $25, or an album $75.
Okay.
So that's kind of, once you have your MP3 file and your artwork, which you can easily make on a cheap platform like Canva or Poster My Wall for free.
Some kind of design.
Yeah, once you have it on there, then cool enough to have your song just on Spotify. Or wherever else.
So what, the next question I guess goes down to like the costs of having a band, like equipment and recording, and like what are some of the things for for young people to be aware of? Is what's this industry or something like this going to cost?
If you were just starting, if you needed to get some instruments, it's the first thing you would need is some instruments. So you could pick up for instance, you could pick up a pretty decent guitar, a good starter guitar for $200 or $300 used, $100 if you want to look that route. If you're playing an acoustic or an electric, you need an amplifier. Again, you can get a nice little amp for $100 or $200. You need a few chords, that kind of stuff. You can get a very basic, simple setup of a guitar and an amp for I don't know, maybe $300 if you were really starting out and you just wanted to try it. As far as and I guess similar, you can get a starter drum kit.
Yeah, $300.
A cheaper bass guitar.
Yeah. Your cymbals might flip inside out like mine did at one show,
Yeah.
but that's okay. You got to start somewhere.
That's right.
I would say starting out, typically a band probably doesn't have their own sound gear.
Yeah.
Maybe something to practice through,
All-
but
All of this sound equipment can be rented as well.
Yeah, which we did for quite a while.
When we first started playing at the school there, we just rented all that stuff and we brought it out. Turns out we'd rented a sound system that time that could have probably played Craven.
Yeah.
A little overkill, eh?
It was a little
It
overkill.
was fun though.
But it was cool.
But eventually you just kind of add and expand. Like you get a better guitar and
Yeah.
get better
Yes.
equipment. Yeah.
quality
And then you become,
instruments
well, I mean, I personally
have a problem.
have a problem.
Is he hard on guitars or what?
I'm not hard on them, I just love
Hard on
them.
the
Yeah.
wallet, I
Oh,
guess.
I see. Oh,
I
right.
love
It's like,
instruments.
I'm a
that,
collector.
yeah,
Yeah.
And
How many
I
guitars
like
do you have?
about 15, I think.
Just can't stop.
Yeah.
But I really like it. And I don't have very many expensive guitars, really. I've got a couple of slightly more expensive guitars that I really love, and amplifiers and stuff. But I've become really into the gear and stuff. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. And we were just saying recently, actually, too, that a lot of bands who are going around and playing at lots of these shows, or if you go to like a club or a bar, you don't need to bring your own sound equipment. They have it there for you. They've got usually a sound man that's going to set you up and mic up all your stuff, so you don't have to worry about any of that.
So you come in with your instruments. And
That's right. You come in, plug and
go.
play kind of thing to an extent. And I mean, we have our gears for playing shows. When you go to a ball tournament in the middle of the boonies, then you're going to charge more money because you are bringing your own sound equipment and you're doing your own sound for yourself, which is another ball game to learn that takes time and trial and error of learning that. But it's not a necessary thing to have big speakers and a soundboard and that, especially in the beginning.
So there's travel costs, obviously. Like if you are traveling any distance, like to Banff or something, that was on your dime to.
Yep.
The travel was that we were put up in a house,
Okay.
courtesy of the club. They own a house that they put their bands up in, which was great. A lot of the times, if we're doing a show, in Saskatchewan, but it's a couple hours away, they'll pay for our hotel rooms.
Okay. So.
Yeah, but like gas and stuff to get there, yeah, for sure. And yeah.
And you have to keep track of that. That's
Oh,
Yeah.
that's part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
It is your time to get there and all of that kind of stuff, and
there's cost is not just money all the time.
Right.
It's
yeah,
time
and replacing things. I mean, once you have your gear
that's the biggest
too, like,
cost, I would say, is the time.
yeah,
You're sacrificing time from your work or from your family
Yeah.
or from other things. We've kind of had to, I mean, me personally, now with a young family, I've had to narrow down my hobbies quite a bit. I used to maybe golf once a week and have band practice once a week and do something else. Now mostly my nights out are coming to band practice or going to a show.
Take the priorities and
Yes.
mix yourself to whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the cost of production, is that like that studio? Is that a
yeah,
or you have
totally,
to-
yeah. And I mean, it depends really. Again, like where you go to record your music, you can. I mean, to record a song for $500 for one song is really good price. Anywhere upwards of
2,000.
$2,000 per song kind of thing. So again, with you can spend as much as you want as these things, and again, it takes time. If you want to just record one because that's all you can afford, absolutely do that. And that's where grants come in as well too, where you can apply for these things.
So Sask Music Association is a good spot to find that too, or is
Yes.
that-
Yes, they've got great information on grants of how to look for them, how to find them. Creative Saskatchewan is amazing as well, which Sask Music can refer you to as well. And they put out lots of grants. There's lots of money out there to be had. The grant application process is involved. It takes time and again, time and effort, and just applying yourself to actually do the work and write it. You know, sometimes there's, I don't want to say an essay, but you know, there's not many different questions they want to ask you and what your plans are, and it does get you kind of into the method of, okay, what am I doing? What is my plan? How am I going to promote myself? What is my plan to cover my own costs if they're only going to foot half of it, et cetera, et cetera. So we were lucky enough to receive a grant from Creative Saskatchewan to do our first music video that we just recorded
About a year
About a
ago.
year ago.
around a year ago, yeah. And they paid for half of our music video production, which was, our entire production was about, what, $5,000, I think?
Yep.
And so they paid for half of that for us. We had to foot the other half, and yeah, which was incredible. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And same with, like, they'll cover sometimes too with touring costs, or you know, there's a variety of grants to apply for. You know, if you want to go on your first tour, you can submit to them and say it's going to cost this much for me to stay in a hotel, this much for my gas, this much for my food, and these are the kinds of things they take into consideration and can fund you for.
Yeah, you could make a tour profitable with the help of a grant.
Yeah.
At the start, it's going to be hard to make a tour profitable, but you could do it.
Yeah.
Watch your costs. One thing I'd like to note on the recording thing is you can record for very little or possibly free at the Recording Arts Institute of Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
which is in Saskatoon. We actually got an opportunity before we were 7 Mile Sun to
Yes.
record a couple of songs. It was no cost to us because they have students there who are learning,
Oh, so it's
and they
they're
just
help-
need musicians to come in and record.
You're
So-
helping them and they're helping
Yeah,
you.
so we actually, as our very first band, Better Than Nothing, we released 2 songs
Mhm.
that we had recorded there, and it was completely free to us. So they did
Okay.
everything for us, and we
It's a
said,
real learning process too.
yeah,
It was.
yeah, and a beautiful studio. It was really, really cool. So yeah, definitely, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
So rewards and challenges. We always ask when we do interviews or career spotlights with our guests, like, you know, any occupation's got rewards. We hope, anyways, and every occupation probably has its challenges. So,
Mm-hmm.
what would you guys say are some of the rewards and some of the challenges of being a band?
Why don't we each speak to our own,
Yeah.
how we feel about that?
Yeah. Oh man, biggest reward for me, every single time, I think almost every single show that we've ever played, there's always at least one moment in that show when we're playing, and it's just one of my favorite songs that we play together, or whatever it is that we're playing. I just get this feeling inside of me that's just, feels like I'm floating, or feels like I'm like in the clouds. It's just like, this is just the coolest moment ever. Like, it's just so fun because it's just coming from this part inside of me where it's just, you can't even believe that you're in that moment, I guess. That's been, I think, the biggest reward for me, is just kind of having that feeling to come back to doing something that even, you know, that sometimes it's really hard, but it's something that I absolutely love, and it's just so fun. And a great experience for me to hang out with you guys and stuff, and I think, like, this has completely been so cool for mine and your relationship as siblings to like have this music together and have this time that we spend together doing and creating music together. It's been a really integral part of our relationship.
Okay. Kevin, rewards? We'll go back. We'll go to rewards,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back and look at talk challenges. Go ahead. Kevin.
Sure. I would agree with Kimberly that the live performances are the biggest reward. And hearing your song on the radio. The first time that our song came on the radio,
Doesn't get old.
it was emotional for me. It was
Yeah.
it was amazing. I've been listening to,
We all
it was
cried.
Rock 102 in Saskatchewan, listening to that radio station my whole life. Never thought I'd have one of my own songs on that radio station. So that was great, but that doesn't touch the feeling of having a crowd that is really focused on you, and at times, like in Banff, we felt like we had the crowd in the palm of our hands, and it was just amazing to see all the faces focused on you, listening to songs that you've written or cover songs, and just being there with you and enjoying the moment. I think my face was sore from smiling after that show because we had such an amazing
Yeah.
crowd. So that for me is the biggest reward. It never gets old.
Joanne?
Sort of twofold for me. Playing and practicing music it's so good for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you sharp, but it's really hard to worry about your shitty day
Yeah.
if you're concentrating, whether it's practicing, learning a new song, or playing for people. The other part is just people. You meet other musicians, you meet people in the crowd, and then I get to hang out with these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Well, I think that's part of it too. I know when you said that too, like I could see, like you when you're doing that, you're probably not thinking about other stuff.
You don't have time.
All those
Yeah.
all those other things in life
Yeah.
are back there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's lots of times we get to practice, and one of us, or maybe all of us, who knows, have had a really crappy week or really something
Oh.
hard happen in life,
Yeah.
and we don't even want to. You dread coming. You're like, it's the last thing I want to do on earth. And then you get here, and we start playing just fun songs that we like to do and laughing together, and you leave here just feeling full.
Well,
Yeah.
you ever say music's therapeutic,
Medicine.
so I mean, it
Certainly is.
certainly is.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So challenges. So Joanne, we'll start. Go back.
I have missed most of my friends' weddings because you have to play on the weekend.
Okay.
And parties and things that go on the weekend. You miss that. You
Yeah.
miss a lot of them.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Kevin.
Biggest challenge for me would be making the time to do it at this point in my life because I'm busy with my career and I'm busy with my family. It's 100% worth it, and I've got great support from you guys and from my wife and my kids. It takes support to be able to make the time to do something like this and try and do it well. So that would be my biggest challenge is finding the time to do it.
Okay.
I think one of them for me too is always wanting more in a sense, which is a lot in life. But you live in the moment. You get something that you really want to do. We get to play in Saskatoon. Then it's like, okay, what's next? What more can we try to go for? What more can we try to go for? And you hear famous people talk about this too, like people who have played the biggest shows of their life in the world that are just like looking for the next thing. Or not that I don't feel satisfied, but sometimes too, I think I get caught up being like, okay, you guys, we need to do this, or we need to accept this gig, or do this experience or something. And it's like, okay, we need to kind of pull ourselves back here and be like, all right, we're not doing this full time, and how much do we really want to put into it? We have lives outside of music as well, and we have careers outside of music as well too. So it's challenging to not get caught up in it. And I mean, if it is something that you want to absolutely go for, then that's great, and that's so good to have that feeling and that motivation to keep going. But I kind of have to rein myself back in sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and kind of wrap this up here pretty quick. What's the plan for the band? What's it look like down the road a bit? What do you think?
I would say at this point, like Kimberly said before, we've maybe reined ourselves in a little bit because we're realizing if you try and keep, and it's possible, but if you try and keep pursuing the next thing, it's a very big commitment. So at this point, me personally, I have small goals. I'd love to get our second album recorded and released. I think it's going to be even better than the first, and I would love to play an opening slot for a reasonably well-known band.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with that too. And just keep doing what we're doing. We're kind of in a really nice groove right now where we've been playing, a show a month, maybe two, having a few months off in between. And just, we played at Jazz Fest, I guess, last summer, which is also a major highlight. Things like that kind of come up, and playing these shows as they come up, and still keeping kind of a nice balance between what we're doing outside of music and within music. I'm pretty happy where we're kind of in the pocket right now.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Joe?
Well, I'd like to thank the band members, Kimberly, Kevin, and Joanne from 7 Mile Sun.